While fans are eagerly awaiting any news about The Last of Us TV show on HBO, there really isn't a lot to go off of at the moment. So, for now, we've resigned ourselves to settling for the odd set leak here and there. Speaking of leaks, though, the most recent one may have revealed the adaptation of a major scene from the game. Keep on watching as we discuss the leak and more. First, we have the set leak. Continuing from 2021, the upcoming The Last of Us TV series is still in the filming process. Unfortunately, fans have received no clue as to when the show's first trailer will be revealed, so PlayStation fans have been making up for the lack of news by analyzing whatever leaks they can get their hands on. Now, the synopsis of the game. Based on the 2013 video game with the same name, the upcoming TV series follows a hardened smuggler named Joel who lost his daughter at the beginning of the pandemic as he is tasked with escorting a teenage girl, Ellie, across a post-apocalyptic country, one that is infested with zombie-like creatures. As Ellie is immune to the virus, both are trying their best to find someone who can use her to create a cure. The video game has received worldwide acclaim for its character development, story, and depiction of LGBT characters. It also inspired the development of other games as well, like Star Wars Eclipse. Now, let's talk about the show's cast and crew. The series stars two alums from HBO's very own Game of Thrones, Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey, who played the protagonists Joel and Ellie. Gabriel Luna from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will also be in the series as Joel's younger brother, Tommy. The series comes from executive producers and writers Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann. Mazin is known for being the creator behind HBO's hit TV series Chernobyl, while Druckmann was the creative director behind The Last of Us games. The post-apocalyptic series has been in production across multiple locations in Canada since July of 2021, and filming is expected to wrap in June of 2022. Up next, the truck crash. HBO and the people responsible for the show have shared next to nothing about the series, but luckily the production has allowed fans to document much of it. The latest behind-the-scenes peek at the set comes from user The Last of Us News on Twitter, which reveals that the cast and crew had just filmed a scene showing a truck crashing into a laundromat. If a truck crash scene sounds familiar to you, it's because there's one in the game that the show is adapting, pretty faithfully too, judging by the leaks so far. In the first game, which will be covered in the first season of the show, Joel is calmly driving a pickup truck while Ellie sleeps in the passenger side. Suddenly, they get ambushed by survivors, hit by a train, and then sent spinning out before crashing into a laundromat. They both wake up moments later and have to fight their way out of the deserted building and through a swarm of zombies with the other survivors closing in on their location. The whole fight sequence is pretty damn epic, and it looks like this scene, or at least some part of it, will be making it into the show. Unfortunately, we don't really have any of the finer details on this scene. In fact, we don't even have a clip of it, just the aftermath, in which we can see a laundromat with a huge hole in the front of it. Now, some good news for the fans. The Last of Us fans are no doubt delighted to hear that the TV series is recreating at least some scenes of the fan-favorite action sequence from the first game. Based on other leaks from the set, it seems like the show is working pretty hard to remain faithful to the games. That isn't really surprising considering Druckmann is on board, despite there being some major changes to the video game timeline. Since the streaming service hasn't revealed much, it's hard to figure out what exact direction the show is taking when all we have are unofficial images like this one. However, this latest peek should help fans rest a bit better, for the time being, knowing the series is at least striving for a faithful adaptation. Next, a major change in the show. Timeline change. A photo recently uploaded on Naughty Dog's Twitter account revealed a major change to The Last of Us TV series. The original game takes place in 2033 as Joel and Ellie work to fight off the mutant cordyceps, byproducts of the pandemic. Naturally, with the adaptation of an immensely popular video game, there are going to be some changes. Naughty Dog Info on Twitter shared one of the first major changes in the show. Rather than the viral outbreak taking place in 2023, it will now happen in 2003, 20 years before it occurred in the game. Let's talk about the possible reasons behind the change. The tweet itself offers a mysterious look into why the change was made. The cryptic look at the date seems to indicate that there is more to the change than just placing it so the main events of the show can occur around our present day. Considering the fact that the present world is currently undergoing a global pandemic of its own, it makes sense to make the viral outbreak earlier, as it not only separates COVID-19 from the apocalyptic virus in the game, but can also create interesting parallels between fiction and reality. Changes are usually made in adaptations in order to either keep the story consistent or to fit into another medium, while giving it the space to be its own thing. For example, films like Uncharted, which is an another adaptation from Naughty Dog, changed the age of its main character, Nathan Drake, to suit actor Tom Holland. They also changed how Nathan and Sully originally met. However, it's important to remember that adaptations are their own work, apart from the original source. Changes are sometimes necessary to create something new, but as we know, the game's director Druckmann is also working as the writer and director, so we can expect the adaptation to be a mix of the original and something fresh. Now, how the show can pay off Part 2's setup for a franchise. Hints of a bigger world. With the upcoming TV series, the video game adaptation might just be to fully explore The Last of Us Part 2's setup of a much wider world by using spin-offs to create a full franchise. The TV series has been a long time coming, having been born out of what was originally meant to be a movie that got lost in development hell. While Part 1 of the game followed Joel and Ellie on their search for a cure, in the sequel, we see Joel's past catch up with him. Ellie goes on a revenge mission, while a new character, Abby, is introduced and her story is explored in detail, paralleling Ellie's at the same time. Throughout the first The Last of Us game, players get the sense that there is a wider world that continues on around our protagonists, and Ellie and Joel are just passing through it. This is only developed further with Part 2, as we get to see more factions alongside the Fireflies, with the Scars, the Wolves, and the Rattlers being introduced. They are all shown to interact in ways that are completely different from the main characters, with even Abby being only slightly related to the central storyline of the Wolves, most of which takes place off-screen. At the end of Part 2, it is hinted that the Fireflies are still out there somewhere in some form, while Abby and Ellie are continuing their own stories completely separate from each other. All of this does set up the idea of a wider world which may be explored further in the third The Last of Us game. Either way, there is room for the TV series to expand into prequels, spin-offs, and other events set after Part 2 once the HBO series is done retelling the games. Next, more world building. Although players have already gotten some prequel information in The Last of Us DLC, Left Behind, and the graphic novel The Last of Us American Dreams, there is still room for much more. Since Ellie has already been cast for Season 1, and Abby will almost definitely appear in Season 2, the show continuing with their stories, maybe alongside the release of Part 3 of the game, would make sense. Though a spin-off series directly following the history and continued existence of the Fireflies could go on to have a lot of success and fill in some important gaps. There are around 20 years of history that are unaccounted for between the beginning of the outbreak and the start of Joel and Ellie's journey, so there's also plenty of room for an origin TV series. That's a wrap for this video. See you in the next one.